Hi, I'm Roberta Zaccanino.
And I'm Alex Benedict.
And today we're here to talk to you about the Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast. It happened on Halloween night of 1938.
And it was met by a lot of criticism and controversy, and it's considered one of the greatest hoaxes in American history. So, going into the 1930s, during the advent of the Great Depression, radio became the number one media source for news gathering and information, because people were able to access the information much quicker and much more efficiently than they were with print journalism or going to the cinema to watch newsreels. So everything in American society would be heard over the radio, and people would catch up on their day-to-day lives, whether it was celebrity gossip, news, sports, soap operas, dramas, and
Also, there were three broadcasting companies, all of which were based out of New York. There was the National Broadcasting Company, which is known as NBC, the Central Broadcasting Society, which is known as CBS, and then there was also the American Broadcasting Company, which is known as ABC.
So CBS had a talent of its own by the name of Orson Welles, who at the time in 1938 was only 23 years old, and he had a very successful radio program with his theater troupe, which was known as the Mercury Theater of Air, and they would broadcast different shows and read novels and discuss various events going on in society, and he would provide some commentary to the social happenings in the novel community and the reading community and what books were popular. So, as we mentioned before, War of the Worlds was played on Halloween night to an audience that he basically didn't know the outcome of what he was going to do.
It was described as an alien invasion occurring in New Jersey. There was music that was played to kind of add the special effects in the background, interrupted by news bulletins to give the extra scare to the listeners.
So to elaborate on that, to continue with his broadcast, Orson Welles would have a jazz band playing music to separate the news bulletins, to kind of make the audience feel like it was a real broadcast, and he made it as authentic as possible with fictional field reporters, which were actors that were from his theater troupe, and they would go out into New Jersey and they would report on the happenings that there was an alien invasion. And they went into very specific detail. They got a lot of the influence from the Hindenburg disaster, from the overdramatic display, and they tried to do a play-by-play news report of the War of the Worlds. But nobody knew it was the War of the Worlds. People were legitimately convinced that the world was being attacked by aliens from Mars.
There was a mass hysteria. The broadcast had created widespread panic throughout the entire country. Many people were hiding, running. There were angry mobs had gone to fight the aliens. It had turned into a lot of people evacuating towns, and a lot of people were then afraid for World War II to occur.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
So another interesting fact going into that situation is they actually had astronomers and meteorologists going to New Jersey, in the town that they claimed was being under attack by aliens, running into an observatory which was in the town over from them, viewing the skies looking for the aliens, and nobody found the aliens. And in some cities, the local National Guard was deployed. The police departments would get calls day and night during the broadcast that they were under attack by aliens, even though the broadcast was only an hour long. It still had such a dramatic impact on the population that people were literally convinced by Orson Welles' acting ability that the world was literally coming to an end. And as another important aspect, that he actually built the hysteria up due to the fears of Adolf Hitler conquering the world, which he had started to do in the advent of World War II, which is why the broadcast did so successful. And it's interesting to note that during the broadcast of Pearl Harbor, a lot of people were convinced that it was a hoax at the beginning of the broadcast because of what Orson Welles had done 3 years ago, that people were genuinely convinced that Pearl Harbor wasn't actually happening. But unfortunately, that day did indeed happen, and it was a cry wolf effect that Orson Welles achieved.
There was also a lot of artistic value within the ethical issues that occurred during this, or due to this broadcast. The creativity was at the expense of the creating a mass panic within the country. There was exploitation of radio over print media. There was quicker to receive information. The public fear of invasion rose drastically. It created a large fear within our country. It created the fear for World War II, and it had capitalized this War of the World's broadcast had capitalized on the public paranoia, and this was just profiting off from a hoax.
So a lot of people who took the broadcast seriously went to the local FCC, which was relatively new at the time, having only been 4 years old, being founded in 1934, and people were demanding he was taken off air and to censor his broadcasts and to keep him from doing something like that again. And the FCC realized, this is brilliant piece of broadcasting, but at the same time it also attacked the integrity of the human population, which was the idea that they could be so easily manipulated by somebody's broadcasting. Though he never went to court against the exact broadcast, he went to court over many different things throughout his life in his creative career. And the FCC ruled that they couldn't do anything about it. They had no congressional power to censor broadcasts. They were told specifically by the U.S. government that their job was only to regulate international and commercial broadcasts for profiteering purposes, to make money for the country in order to help boost the economy and keep content from becoming perverse. But they did not want to destroy artistic expression with the film of The War of the Worlds and the book, and the idea that he was just kind of recreating the book and he wasn't really making a true news story.
The broadcast had been completely protected by the First Amendment, and like Alex had just said, the FCC did not have censorship rights or the capability, or just even they weren't even allowed to censor this at the time.
So to conclude, although the broadcast was extremely unethical and it caused mass hysteria in the country, it was protected under the First Amendment. So he basically had the right to broadcast that information. Had it been today, it would be a completely different situation based on new censorship laws that actually arose as a result of his broadcasting.
Like I just mentioned, the FCC did not have the censorship powers to do anything or to regulate this radio broadcast that had created a panic among the entire country, sending a lot of Americans into shock and fear, creating a huge paranoia. And it also had gone down in history as one of the most popular media hoaxes. And
to conclude even more, Orson Welles' career skyrocketed, and as a result became one of the most pioneering members of Hollywood. Because of this broadcast, a lot of people say he made his career off of The War of the Worlds, and The War of the Worlds made its career off of Orson Welles. But it's an interesting thing because it's such a monumental event to have happened in American history that it's still discussed today, and it's still implemented in broadcasting integrity and in broadcasting standards, that you can't go out and make supernatural, substantial stories and pass them off as actually happening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you very much.